The call to order, the Thursday, January 22nd Executive Committee will now come to order. We are convened as of 12:01 p.m. I'd respectfully ask everyone attending this meeting, mute yourself unless you are recognized to speak. For all of you virtually assembled, please be aware that the Performance Committee will commence immediately after this meeting adjourns. Please note that the committee meetings of the RTD Board of Directors will be held remotely via Zoom. It will be audio and video recorded. The meeting recordings, along with the unofficial minutes of the meeting, will be posted as soon as practicable on the board's website. During today's meeting, we are providing communication access real-time translation, also known as CART. Anyone who would like to access this service should send an email to the RTD board office at rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com, and a link will be provided. Additionally, the CART transcript can be automatically translated for anyone who would like access to a live transcript of this meeting in Spanish. A live stream of the meeting is also available via RTD's YouTube page. I would now like to call the roll for committee members. First, Vice Chair Harwick.
I am here.
Second, Vice Chair Gutenritter.
I am here.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Secretary Nicholson.
I am here.
Not finding anyone on the TV. Treasurer Baker.
Present here.
And I am here. For the record, I see that we also have directors Matt Larson, Michael Guzman, and I think that's it. And Mr. Kroll, board office, sees anybody else jump in, he can let me know. I would now like to open the public comment to anyone who would like to address the committee regarding any topic listed in the published meeting agenda for the current and immediately preceding month. If you wish to speak and have not already done so, please either raise your virtual hand or press *9 on your phone. During this time, the committee will not offer any direct comments or responses. However, if you would like to be contacted regarding your public comment, please email the RTD board office again at rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com. Mr. Kroll, are there any hands raised?
Thank you, Chair O'Keefe. This is Jack Kroll, Executive Manager of the Board Office. We do have one individual with their hand raised, and I'd like to recognize the person with the 2806 phone number from which they have dialed in.
Okay, if I could just, staff will mute you when it's your turn to speak. We have one speaker. Please bear in mind that by participating in this process, you are being recorded. And if you do not wish to be recorded, then your comments will need to be submitted in writing. Comments can be submitted to the board office at the following email address, again, rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com. Speakers should begin their remarks by stating their names, and each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Kroll, you can recognize our first speaker.
Yes, again, we'll recognize that individual with the phone number ending in.
Hello.
Hi, please go ahead.
Yes. Did you guys are you guys posting my number on the online?
It is a Zoom meeting, so the number that you called in will get posted it is available on the screen. Yes.
That's not good. That's a privacy. I don't want people having my public number.
Well, to speak in front of us, you'd have to identify yourself. If you wish to submit comments in writing, please feel free to do that.
I can't believe you guys put people's numbers online. That's insane. Okay, I'm just gonna speak anyways. Okay, I saw 2 incidences on RTD that I don't agree with. Why you guys? I can't believe you guys posting the number. You know what? I'm just gonna this is wrong. Why are you guys posting people's numbers? That's a privacy. You know, you shouldn't be doing this.
So we need you to focus on the agenda of last month or this month. We're happy to take your comments on the AV setup in writing too.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that in writing, but this is extremely wrong. I'm gonna complain about this. Okay, So yeah, public can comment. You know, this is a freedom of speech, a First Amendment thing, the thing that people can do. But I've seen so many public comments in different states and jurisdictions and cities, but I've never seen a department post somebody's phone number. That's basically doxing somebody. You know what I mean? I'm okay with stating my name, my first and last name, and that's public record. My date of birth is public record. But like posting people's like phone numbers online, that's like a form of intimidation, I think. And you know what? You people don't want to be held accountable. That's why you're doing this. Is you're trying to dox people and trying to intimidate people from speaking up. That's why you're doing this. And you know what? You know you're crooked. You people are crooked, and you're overspending the money. I seen that last document from your last board meeting about you guys trying to take out more debt, or you guys can't take any more debt out. You know, we have higher sales tax because of RTD, and you guys have more than enough money to fix and repair public transportation. People who don't even ride RTD are paying for the public transportation. And I admit I did vote for to be Tabor exempt, but now I'm regretting it because you guys still don't have enough money to are complaining, are trying to get more money, and you're overspending. I seen one of your RTD employees parked in a suspicious location over there by East Exposition Avenue and Sable Boulevard in Aurora, Colorado, at that building, and they were parked out of sight. I don't think it was a police officer. I think they were hiding, and they were on the clock. So there's a lot of I think there's employees taking what is it called, stealing time. So I seen a lot of misconduct from RTD, and you guys still can't do your job, and there's not enough security on the light rail system. I've seen people, argue, fight, threaten each other. This is wrong. So that's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Mr. Kroll, are there any other callers waiting to be recognized?
Chair O'Keefe, there are no further public comment or no further individuals here indicating they wish to provide public comment.
Were there any emailed comments received for today's meeting?
There were not.
Okay, with no other participants in the queue, we will close the public comment period at this time. There is one recommended action on the agenda this afternoon, and that action is support for unlocking housing choices in Denver letter. The Board of Directors to authorize the addition of RTD to the list of signatories on the letter addressed to Denver City Council, the Denver Planning Board, and the Denver Unlocking Housing Choices Advisory Committee and associated staff. Do we have a motion?
This guy.
I have Harwick as the mover, and there was a second, but I didn't catch who.
Nicholson.
Nicholson is the second. Is there any discussion on this motion? Committee members first. Okay, seeing none from the committee members, is there any of the other board members that are present would like to speak on the motion?
I'd like to give some background on the letter and what's going on in Denver and why I think we should support it.
Please go forward, Mr. Larson.
So Denver right now is working on a plan to increase the supply of so-called missing middle housing by making it easier to build housing types like duplexes and townhouses and triplexes, triplexes and quadplexes and so forth across the city. They're working on a plan to change the zoning to allow these housing types in a lot of neighborhoods that are currently zoned for single-family housing only. And they are hoping to pass something before the city council elections that will happen in June of 27. And there is a special committee that's been formed to basically work with the Denver Planning Department to make recommendations to council. And recently, Denver's planning department sort of proposed postponing finalizing some key elements of this plan until I believe after 2028. And doing that would basically postpone a lot of the parts of the plan that would allow market rate housing of these types and drive growth in the housing supply. And so the goal of the letter is to encourage the committee to not postpone those plans and move according to the previous schedule to pass a plan for upzoning that will drive greater housing supply in Denver, which would drive greater density in Denver, and which ultimately, as it plays out, should drive more ridership for RTD in Denver. And so that's what the letter is really all about, and I think we should support it because by supporting it, we are really supporting our goal of increasing ridership.
Thank you, Director Larson. Is there any additional discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, we will, oh, I'm sorry, Director Guzman.
Sorry, I just want to make sure that this is, I'm looking at the authors of this letter, or at least the signatories. Where did this come from? Who is the author specifically?
Yeah, the main author is Max Nardo from SWEEP, and I think he consulted a lot of the people who are signatories for, I think, advice on how to do that. But he's really the main author.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance to really dig through this, but I want to make sure that we have run this by staff and that it falls in line with our current policies for ETOD or any other matters that the board has already placed in policy format, and doesn't knock anything that we're already doing. It's in full alignment before we vote on this. Thank you.
GM CEO Johnson.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the opportunity to respond to the question posed by Director Guzman. Director Larson did reach out to staff and sought guidance relative to our thoughts, recognizing the intent behind this correspondence. And in turn, we shared with him and did our due diligence that the appropriate venue would be to go through the board and seek you all's guidance. But RTD staff does not have any opposition to what's being put forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer Banker.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to share a quick story. I was driving through a brand new neighborhood about 2 weeks ago, and I came across some very small houses being built, brand new. And I've always wondered why we aren't building smaller homes. It was probably less than 1,000 feet. And I found it so unusual. I stopped and took a photograph of it because you don't see small homes being built. So, and it was also surrounded by a lot of multifamily housing that's also being built. So I do find that this is important. Density is important, especially for transit. So of course, I'm going to be supporting the letter to Denver City Council. But one other thing, I was just this morning, it was announced, I saw it on Channel 9, I think last night. And I know we're going to be talking about this when we start talking about state legislation, but House Bill 1065, it's pretty exciting if it actually goes through as drafted. I'm sure there's going to be some changes to it as it goes through the process, but basically it's emphasizing transit-oriented development and it's rewarding the cities, allowing them to actually put together authorities using state sales tax increments, which is very unusual. I've never heard of this one before. You know, I've heard of property tax TIFs using property tax, but not sales tax. So I think this is pretty exciting. And in addition, if it survives, they've got $75 million set aside for local governments and actual transit agencies if we wanted to do something like this, which would be pretty radical but interesting to think about. So anyway, I do understand the need for density and how transit and density goes hand in hand. So I think this is a good move. Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Banker. Is there anyone else that would like to be recognized?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I couldn't figure out
Sorry.
how to raise my hand.
Secretary Nicholson.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I had to switch to my phone. My laptop's camera was having issues. I firmly support this letter. I think I've seen the work that SWEEP has done, that Max Nardo has done on housing for a number of years now. I think it's very reasonable step to take to ask us to pursue moving forward essentially with the state law as it's been implemented. I appreciated very much Treasurer Banker's comments, and completely agree there. There's a lot of additional housing that needs to get built, and I appreciate Director Larson's comments, and the work that he has done both on this board and out in the community on housing to move these forward. So I think we have a lot of eyes on this that know what they're looking at, that know what they're talking about, and I think that's a good enough reason to sign on. So,
thank you, Director Gutenritter.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, we've lost you. We lost your sound there.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Please
sorry
go ahead.
about that. I just wanted to say that I am supportive of signing on to this. I agree with what this is trying to accomplish. I don't see anything controversial about this. I support it. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that'd like to be recognized? Okay, we'll move to the vote. Is anybody opposed to this motion? Seeing none, it will pass 5 aye votes and 0 no votes. In accordance with the vote outcome, the board office makes sure that this action item is placed on the appropriate section of the board agenda for Tuesday's upcoming meeting. January board meeting agenda review. Directly after this meeting, the Performance Committee will consider the following action item: 2026 General Manager and CEO short-term goals and performance assessment components. Based on the vote outcome of that action, assuming that it passes, I would like the board office to adjust the board agenda as necessary to ensure that the item is included on the board agenda. Is there a motion to approve the regular board meeting agenda as amended for our meeting on Tuesday, January 27th?
So moved.
Nicholson's mover.
Second.
Harwick's the second. Is there any further discussion on the agenda? Are there any board office executive director Kroll?
Yes, Chair O'Keefe, I just wanted to make a couple of notes related to next Tuesday. While not on this agenda, the board office did pull for a potential special board meeting to commence at 4 p.m. on Tuesday. That would be in relationship to joint service and a potential executive session on that topic. And then as you all are also aware, there will be a study session immediately following the board meeting to comply with the board's resolution approved in December, calling for a study session on fares to occur in January. So I just want everyone to be aware of those. If you haven't responded yet to the board office on the polling, please do so.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Is there anybody opposed to the agenda as described in the packet? See none, it passes with 5 aye votes and 0 no votes. There are 3 discussion items on today's agenda. The first item is the monthly government relations report of January 2026. Michael Davies, Government Relations Officer, will you present the item?
Yes, thank you, Chair and members of the committee. Michael Davies, Government Relations Officer. Beginning with federal items, Really, the focus at the federal level is on completing the appropriations for federal fiscal year 26. Currently, federal government is operating on a continuing resolution that expires January 30th. Good news is that there does seem to be a bipartisan package of bills that have been introduced and are starting to move through the House. Included in that package is the Transportation, Housing, Urban Development Appropriations Bill, which covers all programs, policies, grants, etc., through USDOT. So that would certainly cover the funding that RTD receives through the federal government. That package does adhere to the authorized numbers in the IIJA or Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. And again, that's good news. You know, whenever Congress does a continuing resolution, they're just adhering to the numbers that were previously approved in previous years. And often in the authorizing bills, there's small increases associated with each year. And whenever Congress doesn't do an actual appropriations bill, those authorized numbers don't get realized in the federal funding. So by actually having a bipartisan agreement and getting back to some sort of normal order of how Congress does appropriations bills, you realize the intended investment that Congress was intended to make in authorizing bills. So again, good news. We'll keep the board up to date as those move through, and they should be moving fast. And the Senate, House potentially even later this week, and then Senate next week. So we'll keep the board apprised of that. Moving over to state issues, certainly staff has been involved in tracking all of the work of the Accountability Committee. As you all probably know, the Accountability Committee report is due to the governor and state legislature by the end of this month. We'll certainly send that around as soon as we see a finalized copy. And it is certainly intended that the recommendations in that report will be translated into legislation. Not in the written report, but do want to note that the governor's State of the State address was given, and there was a mention, of course, of the potential legislation that I just mentioned as a result of the Accountability Committee recommendations. And the governor did state that it is a top priority for him to pass legislation dealing with RTD board reform. Next, I just wanted to bring your attention to an attachment that is attached to this written government relations report. And it really is just meant to give the board information, and it is a tracking chart of all of the compliance and reporting requirements that are associated with last year's SB 25-161 bill. Staff, this has been a cross-functional effort between many different departments, but including this chart is really just intended to make sure that the board is aware of staff's efforts to comply with state law and make sure that we're doing what that bill asked us to do. So certainly welcome any questions in the future or comments, but we'll continue to keep the board apprised as RTD adheres to the deadlines and reporting requirements in SB 25-161. And then just lastly on state stuff, not included in the report, but as Director Banker mentioned, there is legislation that is starting to be introduced that does interact with transit, and is certainly the intention of RTD staff to go through our normal process and bring those bills forward for consideration to the RTD board. And very much aware of not only the bill that Director Banker mentioned, but a few other bills that have to do with housing development and the intersection with transit. Lastly, on local issues, certainly continue to work with our local partners and participate in setting up opportunities to engage. On December 4th, staff did have an opportunity to participate in an Adams County Commissioners study session. And that was a great opportunity to talk about some priorities for the Adams County Commissioners. And then lastly, well, this morning, staff and Director Whitmore was there as well, but participated in the North Area Transportation Alliance meeting. That's NATA, and that's really, again, Adams County. It is made up of mayors, city council members, and Adams County commissioners to really focus on transportation. So we participate in those generally monthly meetings, and it's always a good opportunity to engage with our local partners. And then lastly, RTD staff is scheduled to participate in the Denver City Council committee meeting on February 4th. Again, that's a pretty regular meeting, I think about quarterly or about every quarter. Staff participates. I know Director Guzman often attends those meetings, and of course, anybody from the board is welcome to attend as well. And that's again February 4th. A good opportunity to talk about RTD priorities or anything that the council wants to talk about on RTD issues. So with that, I'll end my report and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davies. Secretary Nicholson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Davies, is there going to be a hearing at the legislature on the Accountability Committee report?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah, please go.
Yeah, thank you. Director Nicholson, thanks for the question. My understanding is that early February that the joint committees, House and Senate Transportation Committees, are scheduled. I have not seen anything posted online yet, but my understanding is that there is certainly an intention for the staff, and I would assume the chair of the Accountability Committee to present before that joint committee. And we'd be happy to, as soon as I learn of that date, we'll make sure that the board's aware as well.
Anything else, Secretary Nicholson?
I have a follow-up, but I'll let
Please.
Director Banker, not a follow-up, but I have a second question, but I'll let Director Banker, sorry, Treasurer Banker.
Treasurer Banker.
Just real quick, I was talking to Meg Froelich, and she had said that the date is probably going to be February 4th. So it's coming up pretty quick.
Do move quick. Anything else? Okay. Director Guzman.
Thank you. I'm curious with the continuing resolutions, information that you just presented, Mr. Davies. A continuing resolution would not provide any new sources of funding for rail as one of our modes. It would just continue on with the policy that we currently have. Is that correct?
Mr. Davies?
Yeah, thank you, Director Guzman. And I'm assuming you're talking continuing resolution at the federal level. And really, it's to get away, the bipartisan agreement that's been introduced is to get away from the continuing resolutions and actually put into law new numbers. There are increases in the grants. Again, formula grants that RTD gets are mostly for maintenance. That does include rail maintenance. Overhead wires are all eligible expenses as part of our ongoing asset management plan, and those grants are important to fund those priorities. I did fail to mention, as the result of an actual appropriations bill and not just a continuing resolution, there is funding called the community funding project. Community project funding, aka earmarks. And as a result of getting an actual appropriations bill, Representative DeGette previously was able to get included an earmark for $850,000 that is directed toward downtown rail reconstruction specifically. That builds on previous funding under the same category that RTD has received in prior fiscal years. So big thank you to Representative DeGette to continue to be a champion for us on getting very line item specific funding for RTD on various items.
Thank you, Mr. Davies. Is that all, Director Guzman?
One more quick one, sorry, and
Please.
I know that this is pending information that I am really excited to see this report that came from the Accountability Committee for a number of reasons. But in particular, one of the issues that I've heard come from my community is that I, as a director, have been given direction to fight against the public not having a vote on how our board is. any changes to it not coming to the public for a vote is something that I am supposed to stand against. So I am letting you all know that if that is one of the recommendations that does come forward with this bill, regardless of what the governor wants, the people are the ones who have the vote and the say because they pay the taxes. So I'm just going to put that here now because I think that's going to be something we as a board and you, Chair O'Keefe, will have to address with the body on where we stand and what position we take. But at least as far as District C is concerned, as a member of the 15-member elected body, we will be in opposition to doing any changes to the board of directors without having public voting on it. Thanks.
Thank you for the comments. Secretary Nicholson.
Yes. So I think first question is, Mr. Davies, are there any pieces of legislation that you expect to bring to the board next month, to us rather, to take a position on? And then which pieces of legislation are you in active conversations about the agencies, the board's concerns, with legislators about at the moment?
Mr. Davies?
Yeah, thank you for the question. As just mentioned at the end of my report, it's certainly the staff's intention to work with not only you and Director Geisinger, who have been assigned to work with government relations on these discussions, and we intend to have those discussions with both of you and take your direction in terms of bringing items that are of interest to board members. Of course, bills that interact with transit are an impact on RTD's budget, are an impact on RTD's operations. Those are always bills that we're gonna bring to the board. To your question on interacting and negotiating on bills, RTD staff does not negotiate on bills that the board has not taken a position on. So we will certainly take direction from the policy body on that item. In terms of if legislators ask RTD for technical information, we respond to staff with factual technical information. To date, there is no question that I have received from any legislator on any introduced bill.
Appreciate it. If I can just make one comment. I've been talking with Mr. Kroll about the legislative work that's being done, and just as a heads up to everybody on here, and it'll go up by email, I'll be setting up hours so that individuals can have one-on-one conversations about their priorities for the legislative agenda, just so that people can make their thoughts aware. So expect that email to go out from Jack in the next couple of days to give everybody time, because I think it's really important that we give every board member the opportunity to weigh in one-on-one as we're going about having these conversations. So
yeah. Any other questions, comments regarding the government affairs report? Okay, thank you, Mr. Davies. The second item is the annual review of the board operating guidelines. In a moment, I'd like to ask our board office executive manager, Jack Kroll, to provide additional input on the item. Before I do that, I want to mention that I've asked First Vice Chair Harwick and Director Guzman to work with the board office to bring forward a few proposals on how we might improve the structure of our public comment. I've heard from many board members that this is an area of our meetings that you'd like to see done a little more efficiently. I believe now is the time to examine what some other options may be, learn lessons from other elected bodies around the state. And I expect that we'll see some proposals from this group at our February meeting for further discussion. Mr. Kroll, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Chair O'Keefe. Jack Kroll, Executive Manager of the Board Office again. This is an annual exercise that you all go through with respect to your board operating guidelines. To Chair O'Keefe's comments just now, that is the examination of public comment and how it's structured is certainly something that has come up over the last year. So we've put that on the list to look at. But the hope that your predecessors had when they passed a resolution, I think around 2019, to cement the practice of reviewing annually the board operating guidelines, is I think both to ensure that what you all have in place is working, but also to use it as an opportunity for board members to reflect on what those operating guidelines are and to remind yourselves of how you go about your work. And so, the hope today is if there's any, input on the question already raised around public comment, but also on other items that should be included or adjusted within the board operating guidelines, that those come forward. And, the resolution that the board passed on this indicates that you all will review it and make updates within the first quarter of every year. And so the plan would be to discuss this again in February, again with some proposals regarding public comment and how that structure might be adjusted, but also any other items of interest to the board or committee members we can examine between now and then and bring forward those for potential action in March.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll. Any questions regarding that item? Comments?
Is now the proper time to give that feedback on the operating guidelines?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, so I really appreciate that this is coming up. It's something, we obviously worked on last year, and I had a lot of opinions about when we did that. I think that the comment system, I've been around municipal politics for 20 years and have gone to God knows how many city council meetings and things in that time. I'm a big fan of the system that the city council in Denver uses. I think we get a lot of comments, and unfortunately, we get a lot of comments, and unfortunately, as much as I enjoy some of my friends who come and speak every single time, it does not necessarily lend itself to the most productive use of the board's time. And so I'd love to see just a 30-minute period every single month with you sign up in advance through a form, and the first we just go through the speakers as they come up. I really like what the council does, where if you've spoken in the last 3 months, you go to the bottom of the line, because that ensures that people who are coming for the first time can speak. I've had people come in and told them, like, you have to get here right at 5 o'clock so that you can get on the list, because there'll be 15 other people who speak every single time, and we want to make sure that you coming in to talk about whatever gets to go this time. There are some other tweaks you can potentially make there, letting people like pool their time. If you've got, for example, an organization coming in with 10 speakers, what they really want is to give their leadership the chance to give a longer statement or something, rather than having 5 people say the same thing. So I think there's some opportunity around there, but we'd be better off if we forced people to be a little bit more succinct, and they can always email us if they want to, or call us. That's that piece of it. The second one, if I may, Mr. Chair, is we've been doing a bunch of town halls over the last 6 months, spending agency money for public events, which are phenomenal. I think that there is even more of that we are going to want to do this year. And we have the local budgets for it. And I think that there is something to be said for the way in which we both handle those financials, especially if we are asking staff to process those items as opposed to doing reimbursements. Not every board member is extremely wealthy. If you're putting on an event that costs $1,000, I don't want to offload that, but that means that there's a certain amount of diligence, record keeping, all of those things that I think need to go into it, and that we should bake into arguably the operating guidelines to be really clear about how that needs to work, so that we're respecting staff's time. And then the second part is public disclosure and transparency. You can Quora our spending, which people have in the last year, but that doesn't necessarily give the public, reporters, all of those types, the ability to really scrutinize how we are spending state money. And so I think if we can have, a thoughtful process for disclosure, for that, to make it not just in our records available, but publicly visible, I think that will increase public trust in the process and ensure that we're handling the money that we are spending on these types of town halls and events properly. So I would encourage us to look and work over the next month to come up with some language around ensuring that we're doing that effectively.
Thank you, Secretary Nicholson. Any other comments or questions regarding the board operating guidelines? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the third and final discussion item. Secretary Nicholson, will you present the item on public opinion polling?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate I'll say first off, I really appreciate the work of staff and the input from other board members in helping get this together in a relatively short period of time. But we are into the middle of not the beginning of an election year in 2026, and the board is engaging right now in a recognized on-ramp to some major political issues coming both in the near term and in the long term with regard to the public's opinion of us as an agency, of us as a board relative to the legislation that's being proposed, but more importantly, of the willingness of the public to support us as an agency and to essentially to fund additional operations. We all know that there is a structural deficit that we are facing. We need to find a solution to that in the coming years. And any smart organization that has the likely possibility of going to the ballot at some time in the near future, or just working with state and local officials on getting them to increase funding, wants to be able to demonstrate and understand where public opinion is on what they are doing. And so I think that it behooves us significantly to be doing regular public opinion polling that is distinct from the types of questions that we are asking in the community survey on a regular basis, which are more about the public mood towards certain aspects of the service, the things that we do well, the things we do poorly. In this case, we're looking at both the opinion of the board, the desire for change in governance, the public support favorability ratings of the board and of the agency, and the different ways of asking essentially, do you want to give us more money? Do you want to keep giving us resources? And understanding that not just as a regional perspective, but also how does Douglas County feel about that? How does Denver feel about that? How do Democrats feel about that? These are fundamental questions that we need to keep tabs on, and that will inform our ability for how to answer the longer term questions. And so that's why this item is up.
Thank you for bringing it to Executive Committee. Any comments, Treasurer Banker?
Thank you. I did have a good conversation with Director Nicholson about this issue. I am, and I know we'll have a pretty good discussion at the board when we visit next week. I would support polling. In fact, we used to do it when I was on Longmont City Council. We used to do it every year just to sort of get a temperature of the community. I would just caution that whatever questions are going to be on this poll, that they're going to be, I want to use the word fair, but basically what I'm trying to say, I think, is that it doesn't try to persuade the respondent to say yes in a particular way. And I have a feeling a lot of the questions are going to be around the RTD board and how we're made up and whether or not it should be elected board or should be an appointed board and all that. I would like, hopefully, then that the questions would be neutral and really truly seek to get information from the public and not sort of have it spun a certain way. So that's all I wanted to add. Thanks.
Thank you. Secretary Nicholson.
I will just say I couldn't agree more strongly with Director Banker. I think that, the point of this is to inform us and to help us make strategic decisions. What I found is that, finding a polling number doesn't necessarily, lawmakers are very smart when it comes to reading polling, and they know when they're being presented with a push poll. And so I think that, for us though, the major questions are, how should we think about where we're at? How should we think about, what the public wants to pay for, and orient us in solving this big, hairy, complicated problem. So yeah, Treasurer Banker, I will be 100% committed that whatever input I can have into the polling choices that we do, they will be as unbiased, fair, accurate as possible, because I want real data. So
thank you. First, Vice Chair Harwick.
I think this is a great idea. Frankly, I wish that we could get stuff before the legislature, starts to make decisions on us, because I know a lot of people have this belief that people hate RTD and people hate RTD board members. And man, I would just love to actually hand them something that says that is not the case. And obviously, it's a roll of the dice, and maybe people do come back and says RTD sucks. But I think this is important for us to know, because we're going to be faced with this in the future. And so the more knowledge that we have about how people feel about us, and frankly, how they feel about potentially giving us more money in the future, it is vital for us to know. And the sooner we know it, the better, because if there's something we need to pivot, if we need to make any changes, course corrections, etc., then we need to be able to do that. So
thank you. Second Vice Chair Gutenritter.
Thank you, Chair. No doubt, I think that this information would be extremely important to us in determining how to go forward, what the best path is. I just, knowing that we are at a kind of coming into a budget shortfall, I want to be certain that we're being good stewards of money. And are we certain this is something our agency could not handle, that our marketing department couldn't handle on their own? Or, I know we've done polls in the past. Maybe the answer is that, hey, actually having a third party kind of from that independence perspective is actually valuable enough in its own right. I don't know exactly. Yeah, I'm just, let's make sure we're asking the right questions. So yeah, that's, but again, last thing I'll say is just supportive of this is information that we do need, no doubt about it. Thank you.
Secretary Nicholson, I'm going to go to Director Larson here, and then we'll come back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to sort of talk about my support for this idea. I think it's a great idea. I think this information is super important as we hopefully pursue solutions to our funding gap. And I've done these things before, and kind of responding to Vice Chair Harwick's comment. I mean, if we really wanted to, we could probably push to get some kind of polling done in a couple months. I don't know if that would be, it would be before, I think it would be before the end of the session. I don't know if that will be before decisions might be made about the bills that affect us, but I do think, based on my experience, that would be possible if we really put our minds to it.
Thank you for the comments. Secretary Nicholson.
Yes. So just to address Second Vice Chair Gutenritter's comment, part of the reason that it's important to use an opinion research firm, is to get scientifically valid data that we can then replicate over the course of a number of years. So by asking the same question using the same methodology and doing it using, not just us sending out, broad-based surveys to whomever are going on the bus or whatever, but using, a scientifically valid polling, it gives us a much more accurate sample of public opinion. And there's really, if there's no value to this if we don't think it is a match for reality, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is likely pass a ballot measure, and so the numbers have to be right. So that's the reason you pay for it. In the scope of our $1.5 billion budget, polling at this scale is not terribly expensive. So I'm not particularly worried that the low to mid tens of thousands of dollars that this will cost is going to be a break the bank type of.
Thank you for the additional comments. Director Larson, are you satisfied? Okay. GM CEO Johnson.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to take this opportunity to ground everybody in the fact that we do too, when we do our community value surveys and customer value surveys, we're using statistically valid approaches relative to garnering opinions, perceptions, and attitudes. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to stress that. We have an expert that's on our team that does market research and leverages that same aspect when we're doing internal surveys, but it's always statistically valid because we want to ensure that we are getting the opinions, perceptions, and attitudes from a representative demographic that would be reflective of the general population with their ideas. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments about this discussion item? Okay, move on to other matters. Are there any other matters to discuss today? Director Guzman.
I'll be really quick. Sorry, I'm bringing this to the board's attention. Part of what is going on with the development of the Burnham Yard site with respect to the Denver Broncos purchasing the area for the development of a new stadium has convened a small area planning committee with the communities of Baker, Lincoln, La Alma, Sun Valley, the city and county of Denver, and multiple other entities that are participating in it. I sit on the small area planning committee to provide advice and to represent both Baker, which is my home neighborhood where I was born and raised, but also as the director of RTD to be able to listen to the conversation. Shortly, I will request Board Office Manager Jack Kroll, Executive Manager Kroll, to send out a report that I was made aware of last night. RTD did participate in it. I am not sure who participated in that report, but it's from the CTIO and CDOT. And there are several recommendations about the alignment of the light rail consists through the light rail right-of-way through Burnham Yard with respect to this project. And the presentation we were given last night, for your awareness only, is that they were discussing building a bridge to create a non-at-grade crossing over 13th Avenue and some other expectations that came from proposals out of that report. They seem to have missed the other recommendations that were in the report and have a preference for this one. But I raised the question, who is paying for it and who actually is making the proposal to do that? So I want you all to be informed and aware, one, that is going around, and it will be made very public very soon in a way that we have not discussed as a board yet. And so my recommendation was to bring this back to all of you and get some input so that I can take that back to the small area planning committee. Also, knowing the state of our finances and where we are at, I'm not sure who's paying for that project. And I blatantly said that last night. I don't know who's intending to pay for this, whether we build up, we go underground, or we leave it where it's at, which is probably the more fiscally responsible thing to do at the moment. We are being again, burdened with public expectation that we will be able to provide a different type of infrastructure than we currently have. And I don't understand how we would interrupt rail service to be able to do this currently after we've just spent the last 2 summers trying to get everything running again on the E, D, and H lines that go to the south in Denver. I want you all to hear that here at the executive level. I know that I have not reported a whole lot back, but we just got to nuts and bolts last night at the community meeting. And so I'm bringing it forward to you, and I have some more questions that I will follow up with offline with our general manager, CEO, about the report that I received last night for the first time and just became aware of. So please read through that email. Sections 3 and 4 are the ones that you should focus on. Those are the only ones that are relative to RTD for our purposes. But of course, you can read through the whole thing. It talks about the entire site. Thank you.
Thank you. GMCO Johnson, are you replying to that comment, or do you have a separate comment?
I had a separate comment, but I would just say in general, just as a gentle reminder, we have leadership of the Broncos organization that I've been working with to attend the meeting. And I think this is a great opportunity to ground everybody in with the path forward and the work that we have been doing in collaboration, recognizing the Broncos Football Club are not transit service delivery professionals. They want to ensure that their patrons can have a good experience when they access the new site. Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I did want to broach, acknowledge our IT staff who are swift and quick and on the point during the course of this meeting. I would just wanted to enlighten everyone that a modification has been made relative to any callers, that the only digits that will be exposed will be the last 4 digits, and we have set the rule that can mask everything else. Thank you.
Thank you for the quick action. That's, I don't know anything that moves that fast. Treasurer Banker.
I will be quick, although I've got 5 items. First of all, I'd like to request a summary of my director expense account from last year. I have no idea how much money came out of my account and where I stand. I think that'd be interesting. 2, I should say, I read this morning that the ADAPT lawsuit was dropped, so that I did not know. 3, bylaws. Director Chandler and I have been working on those for a long time. We finally gave our changes, proposed changes to the board office, and so I know they've been working on it. It's been tedious, definitely tedious. But hopefully sometime in the next month or 2, we can schedule some time to bring it to the board and have a rousing discussion, because it's going to be it'll be fun. We'll try to make it fun, even though it's dry material. Let's see. Item number 4, I just wanted to make a request with the retreat. As my experience has been in the past, when, again, with Longmont City Council, we had invited and they attended our top managers so that they can also listen to some of the things that the board is interested in and also participate when needed. So I'd like to make a request that, we have a number of our top managers there. That'd be great. And then the accountability committee. So here's a request. It could be very well controversial, but the accountability now has wrapped up all their meetings. I was wondering whether or not we could invite them to come to one of our meetings to make a presentation. I would hope we'd be able to do that. I know there's going to be a lot of disagreements with their recommendations, but I think it would also be very important for them to come and talk to us directly. So just a suggestion. So thank you all.
Thank you for that suggestion. I'm happy to work with Mr. Kroll and Mr. Davies to see if we can get that offered. I think that's a good idea. Secretary Nicholson.
Yes, I just had a question about actually what Director Guzman brought up in terms of the issue around the grade crossings. And I was just wondering, with regard to, I'm not going to ask about the issue itself because we haven't noticed it, but I'm wondering, because we're talking about this committee deals with the agendas, when is that question around how the new stadium will handle grade crossings, when is that going to come to the board? And specifically, I would assume the OS&S committee would be the one that would be, looking at and trying to understand where that's at. Because I mean, I'll just for myself, I have massive concerns about adding additional grade crossings there, and would definitely want to have as much information as I can, as often as I can, about how that stadium is coming together. And so I don't know if that's Director Guzman who can speak to that, if that's GMCEO Johnson, but I want to understand, like, when are we going to get updates on how that is coming along and how it's developing and all of that kind of stuff.
Director Guzman, if you want to address, oh, you went away. GMCEO Johnson, if you had a comment back on that.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So first and foremost, for everyone's edification, I had shared with our chair that I wanted to ensure that the board was grounded in what the Broncos organization had anticipated doing. Hence, it's happening in January as we had a change in leadership. And as relates to staff participation, we have been leading in, we have regular meetings. There is technical staff relative to service delivery, safety, and planning. Quite naturally, when you think about grade crossings, that is something that the State Safety Oversight Agency has to be involved with. In this instance, it'd be the Colorado PUC. There's a myriad of different things that are going on. At this juncture, we are in working group mode because there's a lot of questions. I know the board needs to be involved, hence that's why we were having the Broncos come. So you could ask questions of them. They could talk about their process going forward. And then I would, and Mr. Chair, correct me if I'm wrong, I would yield to the chair to then advise me as to who would serve as a liaison to the board so everybody's clued in as we go forward. So thank you very much for the opportunity to address that question.
Thank you. We'll take that offline and we'll come up with a plan and communicate it either at next month's executive committee or before that written. Director Guzman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to give our General Manager CO priority in that conversation. With respect to the question that was just asked, this is why I'm bringing it up to you. I want you to have that information. So read through that report first. The Small Area Plan Advisory Committee that's working with the city is making giving advice and coming up with a plan to advise how the city will propose policy changes at the city council level for the rezoning of the district, which does include what is possible and what is not possible. So it's dynamic right now and there's nothing set in stone, but as that process concurrently is being developed, it literally changes every 15 minutes in my email. I will have to give you the best snapshot in time of where we're at with the conversation. But I think that we need to ground ourselves in what's being proposed so that we understand it. No formal proposal has been brought yet. These are recommendations that are being made. And this is from what I am working on is not agency specific. I represent the interest of the board in this. So I have the same questions you do, Secretary Nicholson, but also I am on this as a community advisor to the city and making sure that the city county gets their information, the city council, excuse me, gets the information both as a member of the board and as a member of the community, because the worry is we are already truncating east-west passage with the light rail, and there's a lot of other things that are going on. And so how we are able to maneuver and work together, cooperating with both the plan to move this project forward, but also being honest about where we're at in terms of what we can and cannot commit to, both in short term and long term, with respect to what is expected, managing the expectations of what the community expects and what is possible is kind of where I'm stuck in the advisory role that I've been asked to participate in. And so it's a much longer conversation that we have time for here, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention quickly. Thanks.
Thank you for bringing that very important item up. So we're going to move to adjournment for our performance committees following. As a reminder, our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, February 19th. At that meeting, we will follow up on the committee work plan and our board operating guidelines. We'll also review the board meeting agenda and have our monthly government affairs report. Additionally, we may discuss bylaw amendments with respect to the board office, executive manager position, as well as bylaw amendments brought forward by Directors Chandler and Banker for their ongoing work to review the bylaws. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. The meeting is adjourned as of 1:50 or 1:05 p.m. Sorry. And as a reminder, we will now be moving into the Performance Committee. Chair Gooden-Ritter, it is all yours.
Chair O'Keefe, thank you